I guess I couldn't help but keep thinking about how the situation with the cat was very similar to a lot of things that happened in my life as well. Um, from the previous video, I did talk a little bit about the Marine Corps years, so I guess it's a little bit of story time. Basically, like the cat with a can on its head, in the rain for however long, middle of a thunderstorm. I was in a similar situation in the Marine Corps. Except, unlike the cat, there were people around. There were people who knew what was happening. Everybody was very aware of what was going on. We didn't have cans on our heads. Yeah, yeah, Kevlar. Yeah, Kevlar helmets, but have cans on our heads. But anyway, basically, as I said in the previous one, the new chain of command didn't care about our condition after a deployment, so we were automatically back on training. Now, I don't remember exactly which field op came first, but I do remember particularly one field op, which is the one I told you about, how the guy was barely able to breathe, barely able to move right. Well, they took us on a basic patrol op, which I say basic because it's a normal thing. I mean, it's not really supposed to be that crazy. It's like walking through the woods a lot for days, maybe a week. But basically the first night was already catastrophe. The new chain of command was quicker at trying to set everything up for us to go out and do stuff immediately than try to give us enough of a break or at least be considerate of what they were doing. They weren't considerate. If anything, they were the complete opposite of consideration. They were extremely negligent on taking care of the men, taking care of their boys. And they had put us, because patrol operations, you always have a base of operation. That's kind of the idea. Our patrol base for the first night, and I'll tell you, me and a few other people already knew this was not a good idea. This was not going to result well. So basically, we had set up in a dry swamp, something I myself confirmed by the looseness of the soil compared to all the other areas that we had walked through. The soil was just way too loose. Confirmed with a fellow of mine who I worked with for a while, and he knew his stuff, and he confirmed my worries that yes, we were in a dry swamp. Someone else confirmed to me that there was a hurricane coming. And these weren't like corporals, sergeants, or nothing. These are all lance corporals. These were just all lance corporals, us just talking amongst each other as we usually do, because, well, really talking to a corporal might get you some leeway in some situations. Talking to a sergeant definitely gets you some leeway in some situations, but it really depends on how much they care about their men, about what happens to their men. And trust me, during my time in the Marine Corps, you realize how little they care about you, that you really, really are a number. They might as well have smacked a barcode in the back of my neck. Levels of care. And I mean as in, oh, well, if you're no longer able to move or do anything, we can just get 3 other dudes to replace you. That level of care. Like, oh, well, you're broken. Bye. So basically, hurricane came. And if I recall correctly, it was in January. So it was not a warm hurricane. It was a cold, very cold hurricane that hit us throughout the night. And there was no orders to pick up and get out of this spot because clearly it was flooding. And it became very apparent that the flooding was not going to stop anytime soon. For the rain had started, if I recall correctly, at 2 a.m., 1 a.m., in between 1 a.m. or 3 a.m. I remember this because I woke up to it, and I was just like, what am I supposed to do about this? Went right back to sleep in my sleeping bag. I remember when I woke up to people yelling, orders being roared out, and then some silence for a very, very good long amount of time. But you know what didn't happen? Nobody shook me up. Nobody told me to get up. So I was like, I'm just going to stay here with my neck up to my neck in water in my sleeping bed, because at the very least, the water's warm thanks to my body heat. So it was kind of a lukewarm bath inside of a sleeping bag that morning. And I just sat there, nothing but rage in me, because I was like, this could have been avoided. Got out of the sleeping bag and checked in with my guys, because I was like, I gotta get out eventually. I can't just stay like this. I don't know what's happening, and I need to know what's happening. Talked to my boys. They told me apparently there was at least 10 to 13, in between that number, of hypothermia cases, because, well, if you're in a dry desert as a severe hurricane is coming in January, you will get a lot of hypothermia cases very, very quickly. Hypothermia, meaning the body is too cold to operate and function. And if it were to stay that way, organ failure is a likely thing that will happen, permanent damage to the body, and most likely organ failure leading to death. And unfortunately, out of the 10 to 13 people who got hypothermia, one of those guys nearly met death that day. Almost passed away from organ failure, but I mean, he got a souvenir afterwards. Brain damage, nerve damage. And what did they do to him? Treated him like garbage. Threw him away like as if he was nothing. And I remember that day. I remember seeing that man for a whole week, because we never left the field even after the hypothermia cases. And trust me, the hypothermia cases, they never got to leave the field operation. They stayed. Hospital? No. Why would we take them to the hospital? Why would we need that? We have corpsmen. They have all the equipment they need right here to treat hypothermia cases. The guy nearly died, yeah, but he's still alive. Brain damage, but that's okay. Anyway, we did get out of the field, and a lot of people were not the same afterwards, myself included, of course, because, well, you have to have trust with your men. And I'll tell you how our higher-ups felt about the situation, because they did tell us that same morning it was our fault. Everything that happened was our fault because we weren't prepared for a hurricane in the middle of a dry swamp in January. That we should have sprayed waterproofing gear all over our stuff in hopes that flood water can be resisted by chemical spray. I mean, he literally, and I mean, the captain at that time literally sprayed a sock with waterproofing spray, which is meant to make water slide off of the material. And then he just dropped it into a puddle. And amazingly, guess what? The sock was drenched. There was no way for us to prepare for something like this. Even I only became privy to it like a few hours before we were gonna go into our night operations, which was like, yeah, there was no, and again, this is a new chain of command at that time, and there was no rapport. We didn't know anything much about these guys, and we were learning them as we were working with them. So like, it was, well, I guess we're just gonna have to deal with this. And guess what? Someone almost passed because of that. Almost. And directly due to negligence of leadership. I don't trust anybody, because most people don't care what happens to me afterwards, even after this video. I hope everyone is having a good day. Be productive and be smart. And think about yourself. No one else is really going to do that for you. Turning out.